Hi, this is the third module of Municipal Solid Waste Management. So in this module, I'm going to explain about the various elements of integrated solid waste management and the participation of various stakeholders in managing the solid waste. So before getting into the topic, I'll show you the framework of municipal solid waste management and who are all said to be the waste holders. In accordance to the Waste Act, waste holders are described as the following persons like private individuals, property owners or companies, then municipalities and certain manufacturers. When you look upon the institutional framework of municipal solid waste management, it includes the following organization. They are Ministry of Environment and Forest, Ministry of Urban Development, and Central Pollution Control Board. So these three are on the top of the institutional framework. Then below these organization, there is a second layer which is going to play a major role with respect to any state government. They are the state government. Then we have multilateral agencies, then regional level solid waste management facilities, then urban local bodies and municipal solid waste management facilities. So usually the top layer that includes Ministry of Forest and Environment, then Ministry of Urban Development, Central Pollution Control Board. They lay down the procedures and they lay down the norms, and these norms should be meticulously followed by the state government and the local urban bodies in order to have the effective solid waste management. Next, we are getting into the topic of our third module, participation of roles of various stakeholders in managing the solid waste. We'll see one by one. First is the role of public participation, the role of non-governmental organization, the role of private sector participation. In the role of public participation in managing the MSW, community participation is very much essential. So the community participation will be there in the waste collection, then source level segregation for individuals for managing the municipal solid waste. The treatment is not the vital role in managing the municipal solid waste, whereas the segregation is playing a vital role in managing the solid waste. So community participation is very much essential in this aspect. So the public participation role is also considered to be major for collection of waste at the source level, and its treatment process are effective and efficient with urban waste management authorities when the waste are segregated properly. Then we are going to see how the public participation can be motivated. The social norms and the awareness for the concern about the environment, then the knowledge of the procedures and practices to reduce the waste, and convenient accessibility to the facilities and adequate programs. So these are all some of the key aspects in order to motivate the public participation in the solid waste management, especially in the segregation of the waste. How to increase the participation of the community in the municipal solid waste management? It emphasizes the environmental benefits. The urban local body, the state government and the central government will be emphasizing the environmental benefits to the general public, and they have to demonstrate personal and community benefits to all the community persons. We have to give the convenient access facilities and adequate information so that the people will access the facility very easily. So positive emotions surrounding the waste minimization should be encouraged. What are the barriers for the public participation? Barriers to lack of public participation. It involves lack of access or inadequate facilities for the municipal solid waste management, then inconvenience and lack of knowledge, then government policies and public mistrust of authority, expense of waste minimization and diversion, then emotional response to waste. So if the government policies and is not in a proper manner, and if the general public does not trust the authority or the government, then naturally there will be a lack of public participation. So these are all the barriers of the lack of public participation. Next we are going to see the role of non-governmental organization in managing the municipal solid waste. So non-governmental organizations operate between the private and the governmental realms. It actually originating outside the communities in which they work. NGOs are motivated primarily by humanitarian and or developmental concerns rather than interest in service to improve their own members, actually for their own members. See, this NGO, they are acting as a mediator between the public and the government organization. So whatever rules that is laid on by the government, that will be communicated to the public by means of this NGO. If these NGOs are acting in a very positive manner and acting in an effective manner, definitely there will be a success in managing the municipal solid waste. So this NGOs may help to increase the capacity of the people or community groups to play an active role in local solid waste management by contributing the following important aspects: people awareness of waste management problems, then organizational capacity and the formation of community based organization, channels of communication between the community based organization and government authorities, the CBO's voice in municipal planning and implementation processes, technical know-how of the local authority, and access to credit facilities. When all these aspects have emphasized to the general public, naturally the participation of the public will be increased in managing the solid waste. So these NGOs are also providing an important support to the informal sector, such as waste workers and enterprises. They are actually assisting them to organize themselves to improve their working conditions and facilities, increase their earnings, and extend their access to essential social services such as healthcare. And the NGOs is also takes a responsibility with respect to the schooling for their children. Next, we are moving on to the public-private participation in managing the municipal solid waste. See, in order to overcome the technical and financial deficiencies associated with the current system, state and local governments in India are increasingly resorting to the use of private contractors for collection, transportation, and disposal, and the private capital to supplement the mechanization and improvisation process will also be there. So, supplementing with respect to mechanization and improvisation processes will lead to a much beneficial solid waste managing activity. So this public-private participation will also include a wide range of enterprise types varying from informal micro enterprises to large business establishments. As potential service suppliers, private employers, that is private enterprises, are primarily interested in earning a return on their investment by selling waste collection, transfer, treatment, recycling, and even disposal services. Operating in various forms of partnership with public sector, they may also provide capital support management and organizational capacity, labor and or technical skills. So due to their profit orientation, private enterprises can also do appropriate jobs in providing MSWM services for effectively and at lower cost than the public sector. However, this private sector involvement does not guarantee the effectiveness and lowering the cost. So this arrangement ensures more equitable service access. When private enterprises depend on the direct collection of the user charges, they have little incentive to provide services in lower income areas where revenue potentials are very weak. And more often they operate under contractual agreement with municipal authorities. In such cases, the authorities commonly retain the responsibility for user fee collection. So this private sector waste collectors may be contracted directly by the individual households, neighborhood association or business establishments. You can see in the apartment, nowadays the apartment or is there throughout the city. Whatever the city will be taking into consideration, there exists humpty number of apartments. So the secretary or the chairman of that particular apartment will be appointing a contractor who will coming and collect, and he himself will be responsible for fees collection also. So this is a way in which the public participation can be applied in managing the solid waste. Then what are the prerequisites for the successful public-private participation in municipal solid waste management? Prerequisites in the form of campaigning is very important. It is said to be imperative in the urban services. See, the people in the urban community will be moving like a vehicle, we can say, running. They are running out of time. So campaigning is very, very important, and it becomes the imperative part of this public-private participation. Then the communication to the stakeholder is very essential. That will actually drag the public towards the municipal solid waste management. The legal capacity of the urban local bodies to contract out is very essential. This is also said to be the prerequisite for the successful public-private participation. Then overall competition in the market, that also playing a major role or said to be a prerequisite for the successful PPs. Then quality-based information on quantity and quality of the waste generation must be communicated to the public to have a successful participation. So far we have seen the participation or involvement of various stakeholders such as public, private and government and NGOs. Next comes the topic, which is nothing but the functional elements of municipal solid waste management. When you look upon the elements, it includes around 6 procedure for managing the municipal solid waste that we are going to see one after the another. So the first and foremost activity of the municipal solid waste management is waste generation naturally, and simultaneously waste handling and sorting, storage and processing at the source. Immediately after the waste generation, the waste must be segregated, sorted out and stored. Next will be collection, sorting, processing and transformation. Then comes transfer, transport and finally the disposal. So this waste generation encompasses activities in which materials are identified as no longer being valued and either thrown away or gathered together for disposal. So whatever the product that we are using becomes obsolete some years after. So those obsolete product will become a waste. It will not be useful in a furthermore years, so naturally that will be thrown away. So in the future, however, more control is likely to be exercised over the generation of the waste. But at present, when you look upon the current scenario, it is uncontrollable. We can say it is uncontrollable. Waste generation is uncontrollable. So in future, after doing so many exercises and after implementing many legal rules, we may able to reduce the generation of the waste. Then the second element of the municipal solid waste management involves waste handling. So this waste handling involves sorting, then storing and processing too. We need to sort out the waste components based upon their characteristics. Whether it is a biodegradable or non-biodegradable, whether it is combustible or not combustible, whether it is a inert matter or a chemically strong matter, whatever may be, depending upon the characteristics of the waste, it has to be sorted down and it has to be segregated and it has to be stored in a proper place. That comes the second element of the municipal solid waste management. So waste handling and sorting involves activities associated with management of waste until they are placed in storage containers for collection. Handling also includes the movement of the loaded containers to the point of collection. Then sorting the waste components is an important step in handling and storing the solid waste at the source itself. As I already emphasizing, once a waste is generated, it has to be sorted out, it has to be segregated at the source itself. Emphasis must be given on this activity in order to avoid a huge treatment facility to be constructed, because the waste will be reduced there itself at the source itself. Then the treatment doesn't need any big infrastructure, because only a limited solid waste will be enter into the treatment facility. So the best place to separate the waste of materials for use and recycling is at the source of generation. So every one of us should concentrate, every one of the stakeholder should concentrate on this particular aspect to reduce the waste generated. So on-site storage is of primary importance because public health concerns and aesthetic considerations is also playing a role here. So the cost of providing storage for solid waste at the source is normally borne by the household in case of individuals or by the management of the commercial and the industrial properties. So if the government is taking this kind of role, then the government should construct a massive structure, because the solid waste generated is increasing day by day. In tons and tons, the solid waste is generated. So the government should provide infrastructure, a massive infrastructure to store the waste. Next element is a collection. This collection includes not only gathering of the solid waste and recyclable material, but also the transport of these material after collection to the location where the collection vehicle must be emptied. This location may be materials processing facility and a transfer station or a landfill disposal site. And we'll be dealing with the transfer station in detail in the future modules and even the landfills also. Next element is the sorting, processing and transformation of the solid waste. Actually, the solid waste, what we collected from the source, will be in bulk and it will be larger in size. So when we want to take or when we want to transport those waste to the treatment facility, we need a bulk equipment to carry. So what we have to do is, we have to convert that larger sized particles into a smaller sized particles. So that is called as transformation of the solid waste. So the waste processing is undertaken to recover conversion products and energy. The organic fraction of the municipal solid waste can be transformed by the variety of biological and thermal processes. So the most commonly used biological transformation process is anaerobic composting. See, when the organic solid waste is segregated, is removed from the bulk solid waste, then those organic solid waste can be undergone a composting by aerobic or anaerobic composting, from which we'll be getting a very good, very beautiful or a good manure, a natural manure, a natural fertilizer, which can be used for the agriculture. So waste transformation is undertaken to reduce the volume, weight, size of viscosity of the waste without resource recovery, actually. So the transformation may be done by a variety of mechanical instruments or mechanical equipment like shredding, and we have thermal incineration facility are also available, and chemical techniques. By means of chemical techniques, we'll be able to transform the materials. Next element is a transfer and transport. The functional element of transfer and transport involves two steps. Step 1 is a transfer phase from smaller collection vehicle to the larger transport equipment, and the second step is the subsequent transport of the waste, usually over a longer distance to a processing of the disposal site. Then the last element is the disposal. So the disposal, after the waste has been segregated, transformed and processed, it is entering into the disposal site. So the disposal waste will, the waste will be disposed in the landfilling or in the uncontrolled dumping. It is the ultimate fate of all the solid waste, whether they are residential or a residual or a reject of the composting and any other substance for that matter. All these matters should be entered into the landfilling or in the uncontrolled dumps. So when we look upon various waste management options or techniques, we have an inverted pyramid which will tell you which attribute must be concentrated before anything else, and what is next and what is next. Likewise, what is a hierarchy we should follow. This inverted pyramid will tell you waste minimization at the source. Waste minimization at the source will be taken into care. Then we have reduction, reuse, recycling, and ultimately the disposal aspect. So we can even recover many resources from the waste processing through the biological treatment and through the thermal treatment. And our next module will be dealing this biological treatment and the thermal treatment. So with this, we'll come to an end with respect to the module 3. Thank you.